everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gridiron Glory here with Will and Tad. Today, we're bringing you a matchup between the New Orleans Saints and the Cleveland Browns, with the Saints winning 35 to 14 in New Orleans, improving to 4-3. To 4-7 on the year, 3-3 at home. The Cleveland Browns, they fall to 2-8, just a very rough season for them. The Saints, as you would imagine, they look a lot better with Derek Carr back in action for the past several weeks. They back up a strong win against Atlanta with a dominating performance against the Browns. Carr 21 of 27, 248, 2 touchdowns, no interception, so a big day there. Another player that had quite the remarkable game is Saints, let's call him utility man, Taysom Hill. He was 1 for 2 passing with 18 yards, 7 rushes for 138 yards, and 30 touchdowns, 8 receptions for 50 yards. What is your take on this gargantuan performance by Saints utility man Taysom Hill?
Yeah, Taysom Hill. I mean, he's going out there. He's a big playmaker. He's showing all kinds of things. He's a very tremendous utility player. If you want to keep talking about him, Tad, I will be right back.
Looking at Taysom Hill, I mean it's hard to even rank him amongst other players just because his role is like so unique to what he does. I mean, the way he just can impact a game, and it's not consistent. He doesn't do it every game, but I mean, if you can try to get Taysom Hill a big role, then he will do what he can to utilize it to the best of his ability. Also a respectable game for Alvin Kamara, 16 for 67, 4 catches for 22 yards, so that's respectable. Another big game for Valdez-Scantling as well, 2 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. We touched on him a lot last week, and it looks like he's continuing the positive momentum.
Yeah, Marquez Valdez-Scantling to me is, he can definitely be sneakily good sometimes. Absolutely. 2 catches, 87 yards, touchdown long of 71 yards there. So that was a big explosive play. The Saints, this was a pretty competitive football game, even going into the fourth quarter. And then the Saints just kind of found a way to break away here. And you honestly felt like the big, huge, just like dagger into the heart of the Cleveland Browns was that little touchdown run at the end by Taysom Hill. What was your take on that moment? That was a pretty fun moment.
Taysom Hill, the way he played was just remarkable. And I mean, it was breathtaking to see what he's doing. The seasoned veteran out of Brigham Young, he's invented a role for himself that's just so unique. And I think it's interesting that the Saints, they just continue to just let him do what he does.
To me, it's like Taysom Hill is almost like what Tim Tebow could have been. Like what I feel like a lot of teams were trying to do with Tim Tebow is what you're seeing in full fruition with Taysom Hill.
And the thing is, it looks like Taysom Hill is a lot more welcome to that being his role than Tim Tebow. Like Tim Tebow wanted nothing to do with that role. He wanted to be the QB1. Taysom Hill, he's accepting of his role.
Like a lot of NFL teams were trying to make Tim Tebow, basically do what we're seeing with Taysom Hill. And like you said, just Tebow wasn't about that. But it's kind of cool to see with a guy like Taysom Hill that how he's open to it and he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looking more at the Saints defense, which did a fairly solid job of at least keeping the Browns from scoring too much, even if they did rack up a bit of yards. Demario Davis, a big game with his 13 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 deflections, a big day there. Alontae Taylor had 8 tackles and 2 deflections. Brian Bresee had 1.5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 3 tackles. So some respectable performances on this New Orleans defense.
Oh yeah, some very respectable performances. Absolutely. This was just like a game. I mean, the Saints, like like their fans, their team. I mean, granted, it was against another rebuilding team. They just, I mean, it was in New Orleans. Like the fans that went to this game, it's just like it was just the win you needed.
Certainly a win you needed. Looking on the other side for the Cleveland Browns, I mean, Jameis Winston had a fairly big statistical game in his return to New Orleans, the one-time Saints quarterback. 30 of 46, 395 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, I mean, it's hard to peg this one on Jameis Winston. He definitely put up the numbers, but in the end, they just couldn't execute enough to get what they needed. They couldn't get the touchdowns when they needed it. They were 0 for 2 on field goals. I mean, just a rough day for the supporting cast for Jameis Winston.
And it doesn't get any easier as they next week will play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. The Saints, they are on a bye week, I believe. So you get the win, you go into a bye week, you hope to recharge and refresh. So we'll see what happens going forward.
I do have one last take before we get going. I do want to shout out Jerry Jeudy, the receiver, 6 catches for 142 yards, a touchdown. And hey, what was going through your mind when you saw his 89-yard touchdown play?
Well, you know, I certainly thought that was a big moment for the Browns and a big moment for Jerry Jeudy. And Jerry Jeudy, you know, certainly might have liked to see him stick around in Denver, and just like that got handled very weirdly and everything. So a very exciting moment for Jerry Jeudy, and personally, I'm a fan of him, so I digged it.
I would definitely say that it was an interesting situation in Denver, and it feels like both parties are better off. Like Jerry Jeudy has found a good role with Cleveland, and now Denver, they are building some younger receivers up with Troy Franklin and Vele as well. So
absolutely,
that was my last take on the game.
Yeah, Saints win 35-14. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow all season long. Tad and Will covering all things football.